I stood there under the harsh Colorado sun, squinting at the empty space where our car had been parked, barely 10 minutes earlier. My wife Maya and her friends Renee, Brooke, and Allison were gone. At first, I figured it was one of their dumb stunts. They were always pulling stuff like that, pushing limits, seeing how far they could go before I finally lost it. 5 years of marriage had trained me to tolerate their little games. The laughter at my expense, the way Maya joined in instead of ever defending me. But this time felt wrong. My phone was still connected to the charger in the car. My wallet sat useless in the glove compartment. All I had was the faded t-shirt and jeans on my back and a tightening knot in my stomach as the minutes dragged on. We'd been on this road trip to Brooks Lake House for 3 days, and every second of it had been miserable. Maya had begged me to come, saying it would help me bond with her group. I hated the idea. Her friends always treated me like I didn't belong, throwing out jabs and inside jokes I wasn't part of. Still, I agreed because I loved her. Or at least I thought I did. The gas station sat in the middle of nowhere, a dusty pull-off with a flickering sign and a single pump. I'd gone inside to use the restroom, assuming they'd wait. They always waited. Except this time they didn't. An hour passed. I paced the cracked pavement, kicking small stones, telling myself they'd pull back in any second, tires crunching gravel, Maya laughing and shouting, "Got you." But the road stayed silent. 2 hours in, sweat rolled down my neck and my mouth felt dry. I replayed the last few days over and over. The way Brooke smirked after accidentally spilling coffee on my lap. The way Allison whispered something to Maya that made her laugh while glancing my way. The way Renee just watched it all with that smug half-smile. I should have known. They'd been working towards something, and I'd been too blind to see it. A truck finally rolled up, its engine loud enough to snap me out of my thoughts. The driver, a heavyset man with a gray beard and a sweat-stained cup, leaned out the window. "You all right, man? You've been standing here a while." His voice was rough but genuine, and it hit me harder than I expected. I wasn't all right. They weren't coming back. Maya wasn't coming back. I swallowed, forcing my voice to stay even. "Yeah, my ride took off. Think you could help?" He nodded like he'd seen this before. "Hop in, where you headed?" I didn't have an answer. Home, back to Maya, back to the life I thought we had. As I climbed into the cab, something inside me shifted. 5 years of being laughed at, dismissed, and humiliated flooded my chest all at once. I watched the gas station shrink in the side mirror, while the trucker hummed an old country tune. My hands tightened into fists on my lap. I could have asked for his phone, could have called Maya and demanded answers. But I already knew what she'd say. It was just a joke. Don't be so sensitive. I'd heard it every time I spoke up, every time I said her friends crossed a line. She always told me I just didn't understand their humor. Maybe I didn't. Or maybe I finally understood it perfectly. Maybe I never would. But standing there alone, left behind like some unwanted stray, something finally clicked. They never understood me, and Maya never tried to. Again and again, she chose them over me. The trucker dropped me off at a lonely crossroads, pointing down the highway toward Grand Junction, the nearest town. "Good luck, man," he said, tipping his cap. I nodded, my throat too tight for words, and started walking. My shoes scraped against the dirt, the sun pounding down on my head. No phone. No cash, no plan. Just me and the road stretching out ahead. Part of me wanted to turn back, to beg someone at the gas station to call her, to fix whatever this was. But another part, stronger, louder, kept pushing me forward. I was done being the joke. Done being the guy everyone laughed at. Maya and her friends probably thought they'd won, thought they'd finally broken me. But as I dragged myself toward Grand Junction, a strange calm settled in. They hadn't broken me. They'd set me free. I had no idea what waited for me in that town. I didn't know how I'd eat, where I'd sleep, or how I'd survive with nothing. But for the first time in years, I wasn't scared of what Maya would think. I wasn't bracing myself for her friend's next move. I was alone, yeah, but I wasn't helpless. The road ahead was empty and endless, and I kept moving. They left me behind, but maybe that was the best thing they ever did. Maybe this was my chance to figure out who I was without her, without them. By the time the sun dipped lower, turning the sky a deep orange, I'd made my decision. I wasn't going back. Not to Maya. Not to that life. Whatever came next would be mine to build. I paused at the dusty crossroads where the trucker had left me. the Colorado wind kicking up little spirals of dirt around my feet. Grand Junction was somewhere ahead. I didn't have a map, a phone, or a single dollar. Just the clothes on my back and a head full of thoughts that wouldn't slow down. Maya and her friends had abandoned me, and a small part of me still wanted to hear her voice, to demand she turn the car around. But then I remembered the way she laughed when Brooke accidentally knocked my beer over at the lake house. The way she shrugged when I asked her to stand up for me. 5 years of that. 5 years of feeling like a visitor in my own marriage. No, I wasn't calling her. Not this time. I started walking toward town, my sneakers crunching against the gravel. The sun was still high, baking the ground, sweat soaking through my shirt. I didn't know how far Grand Junction was, miles? Probably, but it didn't matter. Every step felt like a decision, like I was leaving her behind one footprint at a time. My mind drifted back to the gas station. To that moment, I stepped out of the grimy bathroom and saw nothing but empty pavement. They planned it. Hadn't they? Maya, Brooke, Renee, Allison. I could picture Renee and Allison laughing in the car as they sped off, thinking it was hilarious to leave me behind. I could almost hear Maya's voice. He'll figure it out, he always does. And yeah, I was figuring it out now, just not the way she thought I would. A pickup truck growled past and I stuck out my thumb, hoping for a ride. The driver, a guy with a scruffy beard and a worn flannel, slowed and leaned out his window. "Need a lift?" he asked, eyeing me like he was still deciding. "Yeah, headed toward Grand Junction," I said, keeping my voice steady. He nodded. "Hop in. I'm going that way." I climbed into the passenger seat, grateful to be off my feet. The cab smelled like oil and cigarettes, but it beat walking. "What happened to you?" he asked as we merged onto the highway. I hesitated, then shrugged. "Got left behind by people I thought I could trust." He grunted like he'd heard that story before. "Happens more than you'd think out here." He dropped me off on the edge of Grand Junction, near a blinking traffic light and a row of low buildings. "Take care," he said before pulling away. I stood there taking it all in. Old brick storefronts mixed with newer chain stores. People going about their day like everything was normal, while my world felt completely upside down. No wallet, no ID, no proof of who I even was. I needed help fast. A few blocks down, I spotted a sign for a shelter, a plain building with a painted cross on the side. My stomach twisted at the thought of it. Me in a shelter. But I didn't have options. Inside, the place was dim, smelling of bleach and burnt coffee. A man behind the counter looked up. His name tag read Roy. Late 50s, shaved head, eyes that missed nothing. "You lost?" he asked, "or just broke?" "Both," I admitted, rubbing the back of my neck. "Got ditched on the highway." "No phone, no money." Roy didn't even blink. "Happens name?" "Mike," I said. Easier to stick with the truth. He handed me a clipboard. "Fill this out. We'll get you a bed tonight. Tomorrow we start fixing the rest." That night I lay on a narrow cot surrounded by snores and coughs, staring at the ceiling. My thoughts wouldn't slow down. Maya's face kept surfacing, her laugh, her voice. I wanted to hate her, but part of me still hoped she'd show up and say it was all a mistake. But Roy's words stuck with me. Tomorrow we start fixing the rest. And he meant it. The next morning he sat me down with a cup of weak coffee and a plan. "You'll need replacement ID. Takes time, but we'll get the process started. In the meantime, you need cash." I nodded. "Anywhere hiring?" Roy smirked. "There's a diner down the street. Owner's name is Jackie. Tough as nails. Tell her I sent you." The diner was a squat little place with red, vinyl booths and a jukebox humming in the corner. Jackie stood behind the counter, 60s. Wiry tattoos crawling up her arms, voice rough as gravel. "Roy says you need work," she said without looking up. "Yes, ma'am. Anything you've got." She finally glanced at me. "Dishwasher quit yesterday. Pays lousy. Hours suck. You steal from me, you're dead. Start now." I blinked, then nodded. "Deal?" She tossed me an apron, and just like that I was in the back, scrubbing greasy plates with hands soaking in hot water. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. No Maya, no friends laughing, just work. Roy checked in later that week, helping me file paperwork. "You're doing all right, Mike," he said, clapping my shoulder. I wasn't sure I believed him, but I kept going. The shelter became home. Jackie's diner became my lifeline. I worked doubles whenever I could, stuffing crumpled bills into an envelope under my cot. My hands stayed raw, my back ached every morning, but the exhaustion felt earned. My first paycheck wasn't much, but it was enough to buy a cheap prepaid phone from the gas station nearby. I held it in my hands, plastic still shiny, and felt something unfamiliar. Pride. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Bought with my money. I didn't need her anymore. Then the phone rang. I'd only had it a day when it buzzed in my pocket while I was elbow deep in suds. I wiped my hands on my apron and pulled it out. Maya's number lit up the screen. My stomach dropped. I let it ring, staring at it like it might explode, until it finally went to voicemail. A minute later, the notification popped up. The notification blinked on the screen. I shouldn't have listened, but I did. Her voice came through soft and unsteady, like she'd rehearsed it. "Evan, where are you? We waited for you. It was just a joke. We're really worried. Please call me back." I stood frozen at the sink, water still rushing. My reflection warped in the steel basin, worried. They'd driven off and left me stranded, in the middle of nowhere with nothing. If they'd waited, if they'd cared, they would have come back. The phone buzzed again. This one was from Brooke. I hit play. Her voice was completely different, light, smug, amused. "Come on, man, you have to admit it was funny." "Call us back, all right?" "Funny." My grip tightened until my knuckles went white. That's all I was to them, a joke. Something to laugh about later over drinks at the lake house. More calls flooded in after that. Mara again. Then Allison. Then Brooke, texts and voicemails stacking up fast. "Where did you go? This isn't funny anymore. We miss you." I scrolled through them, chest tight, head buzzing. Mara's words replayed in my mind, fake concern, fake fear. She didn't care. None of them did. That night I sat on my cot in the shelter. The room quiet except for the creak of springs and the low hum of the heater. The phone glowed in my hand as I replayed the messages. Mara's shaky voicemail. Brooke's laughter. One from Allison that was nothing but giggling before it cut off. My thumb hovered over the call button. Part of me wanted to dial Mara, to yell, to demand an explanation. But what would it change? She'd cry or laugh it off, twist it around until I felt guilty like always. I'd spent years swallowing their crap, telling myself that's what a good husband did. Not anymore. I opened my contacts and blocked them one by one. Mara, Brooke, Allison. My finger shook as I hit the last block, but when it was done, the phone went silent. No buzzing. No voices, no lies. I leaned back against the wall and let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. It felt like cutting a rope I'd been tangled in for years. They couldn't reach me now. They didn't get to decide how this ended, I did. The next day I went back to the diner like nothing had happened. I plunged my hands into the dishwater, letting the heat burn away the last echoes of their voices. Jackie noticed. "You're quiet today," she said, tossing me a rag. "Trouble?" I shrugged. "Just sorting some things out." She snorted. "Long as it don't mess with my kitchen, sort of way." I smirked. She didn't care about my drama, just the work. It was refreshing. Later, Roy stopped by with paperwork. "Your ID's moving along," he said. "You holding up?" "Yeah," I replied. Better than I thought. By the end of the week, I'd saved enough to grab a second-hand jacket from the donation rack. Nothing special, but it kept the cold out. I walked back to my cot that night, the prepaid phone silent in my pocket, and felt lighter. They were gone. Cut out clean, like a bad habit. I didn't need their apologies or excuses. I had work, a bed, a plan. Small things, but they were mine. The betrayal still ached, sure, but it faded a little more every day. With every dish scrubbed, every dollar saved, I was building something new, something they couldn't touch. For the first time in a long while, I fell asleep without dreaming of her. Months passed. Life settled into something steady, not perfect, but solid. I moved out of the shelter into a tiny studio above a laundromat. One room, lumpy mattress, hot plate. Bathroom barely big enough to turn around in. But it was mine. A key in my pocket. A door I could lock. Jackie bumped me up to prep cook after seeing I wasn't slacking. More hours, slightly better pay. I chopped onions, peeled potatoes, let the rhythm of the knife quiet my thoughts. It was hard work, but it felt real. Nights were still rough. I'd lie on that creaky mattress, staring at water stains on the ceiling, and Mara would sneak into my thoughts. Not the cruel laugh she used with her friends, but the soft smile from back when things were good, before I became the punchline. Loneliness hit hard sometimes, a cold weight that sat heavy in my chest. But morning always came. I'd pull on my jacket, step into the day, and head back to the diner. No fear of her calls, no dread of her friends. Just forward, no judgment, no cruel jabs from her friends. Just me, free to breathe, free to exist. One night after a long shift, I lay on my bed scrolling through my prepaid phone, restless and bored. I'd kept it clean, no contacts, no ties to the past, but curiosity finally won. I made a throwaway social media account. Fake name, no photo, just enough to look. I searched for Mara. Her profile popped up instantly. Still public, still polished, still wrapped in that picture-perfect life. There were photos from the lake house trip, her and Brooke by the water, Allison grinning with a drink, everyone looking carefree. Then I saw it, a post about me. It was an old photo, years back, us smiling at a picnic like nothing in the world could touch us. Her caption hit like a slap. Missing my love. I pray he finds his way back to me. I stared at the screen, thumb frozen. Missing me. She hadn't even turned the car around. She'd driven off and left me stranded with nothing. A laugh slipped out of me, sharp and hollow, bouncing off the bare walls of my apartment. It was so fake, so her, turning herself into the victim, like I'd wandered off instead of being abandoned. I scrolled through the comments. Brooke, he'll turn up, don't worry. Allison, sending you hugs. My stomach twisted. They were all in on it, rewriting the story, painting me as the bad guy. I locked the phone and tossed it onto the mattress, dragging my hands through my hair. None of them had changed. But I wasn't the guy in that picnic photo anymore, the one who smiled and took it while they tore him down. I was someone else now, someone they didn't know. The next day at the diner, I was quieter than usual, still chewing on what I'd seen. Jackie noticed, she always did. You look like someone ran over your dog, she said, sliding a plate of fries my way during a slow stretch. I shrugged, picking at them, just thinking too much. She raised an eyebrow, arms crossed, tattoos shifting. That ex of yours? I froze. I'd never told her the whole story, just fragments. Yeah, I admitted. Saw something online. She's acting like she's the one who got hurt. Jackie let out a sharp laugh. Sounds like a real piece of work. Good riddance, kid. I nodded, managing a small smile. She was right. Good riddance. Work grounded me. I diced vegetables, flipped burgers when the cook needed help, wiped counters, anything to keep moving. The diner had its regulars now. People who nodded at me, folks who left a couple extra bucks. It felt good, like I belonged somewhere. My hands were rougher, my arms stronger from hauling crates and scrubbing pans. Sometimes I caught my reflection in the glass door. Tired eyes, messy hair, but a guy who was making it one day at a time. Mara's post faded from my mind, replaced by the clatter of plates and Jackie's gravelly voice calling orders. I stopped checking her page after that. Whatever story she was spinning didn't matter. I had my studio, my job, my life. Small, sure, but growing. Loneliness still crept in on quiet nights, when the laundromat below hummed and rattled through the floor, but it wasn't as sharp anymore. I'd wake to the smell of detergent, pull on my boots and step into the cold morning air. No one waiting to mock me. No one rolling their eyes at my every word. I could just be Evan, plain simple Evan, and that was enough. For the first time in years, I felt like I was standing on solid ground, not sinking in quicksand. Freedom wasn't loud or flashy. It was this, my key, my paycheck, my choices. And I wasn't giving it back. I'd been living above the laundromat for a while now, settling into a rhythm that felt like mine. Work at the diner, save what I could, sleep in my own space. The days blended together, but they were good days. Steady days. Then one afternoon, the door to Jackie's diner opened, and Lena walked in. She came in twice a week, always claiming the same booth by the window. Always surrounded by heavy textbooks, pen moving nonstop. A med student. I guessed from the way she whispered medical terms to herself while scribbling notes. Her order never changed. Denver omelet, no tomatoes, extra coffee. She barely looked up when I set it down. I caught myself watching her sometimes, amused by how deeply she disappeared into her work. More than once her fork hovered halfway to her mouth, for a full minute before she realized it. I don't know when I started messing with her. Maybe boredom, maybe curiosity, maybe I just wanted to see if I could get a reaction. I started swapping my name tag, random names I made up. Ben one day, Tom the next, Frank after that. She didn't notice at first, too buried in her books. Then one morning I walked over with Oscar pinned crookedly to my shirt. She finally looked up. Her eyes flicked to the tag, then back to my face. "That's not your name," she said. Calm, certain, like she'd just diagnosed something. I grinned. "You sure?" She gave me a small, knowing smirk and went back to her notes. That was it. Our first real moment, and it stuck with me. Work stayed busy, but Lena became the highlight of my week. She'd come in, order her usual, and I'd invent reasons to pass by her table, refill her mug, clear a plate, ask if she needed anything. She'd nod, mumble a thank you, but that smirk lingered like a challenge. One afternoon she looked wrecked, hair pulled back in a rush, books stacked higher than usual. "Rough day?" I asked, setting her coffee down. She exhaled. "Exams, I haven't slept in 2 days." I didn't push, just slipped an extra hash brown onto her plate when she wasn't looking. She noticed, looked up. "You're sneaky." I shrugged. Occupational hazard. Our first date wasn't even planned. One evening she walked in dressed differently, jeans, a nice top, confidence instead of exhaustion. She told me her friends had bailed on a reservation at a fancy pizza place across town. "I'm not wasting it," she said, then looked at me. "You free?" My shift was almost over. Jackie overheard and waved me off. "Go. You're useless if you're standing here grinning." So I went. We split a pepperoni pizza and a pitcher of soda. She laughed, really laughed, when I told her about the fake name tags. "I knew you weren't Oscar," she said. "You're not that old." We talked for hours. Ja, med schoolstress. My diner grind. Favorite movies. Stupid stories. It was easy, comfortable, like we'd skipped the awkward part. 6 months later, she moved into my tiny studio. It was cramped. Her books took over half the room, and we bumped into each other trying to cook on the hot plate. But I didn't care. She studied late, lamp glowing while I slept. Sometimes she muttered anatomy terms in her dreams. It was strangely comforting. A year after that, we upgraded to a real apartment, a real kitchen, a couch that didn't smell like bleach. Lena was different from Mara in every way. She never mocked me, never made me feel small when I doubted myself. She'd just say, "You've got this," and somehow I believed her. We cooked together, watched old shows, argued about dishes in the sink. Simple stuff, but it was ours. Mara, meanwhile, refused to let go. She started emailing me. Must have tracked down my address from some old bill. The first message came a few weeks after Lena moved in. It popped up while I was chopping peppers at the diner. "I just want to know you're okay. I miss you, we all do." My knife paused mid-cut. "Miss me?" She'd left me stranded, laughed about it. And now she missed me. I deleted it without replying. More came after. Short ones, long ones, all dripping with that syrupy regret she'd perfected. "I messed up. Please talk to me. Your grandmother's worried." Each one tugged at something old, but I deleted them all. Lena caught me once, frowning at my phone. "Who's that?" she asked. "Nobody," I said. She didn't push. She didn't need to. I wasn't going back. Life with Lena was good. Better than I ever thought I deserved. The diner was steady. My hands didn't shake anymore. And Mara's messages were just background noise I could tune out. I'd built something real, and I wasn't about to let it slip. She grabbed my hand, firm and steady. "You're already running that place half the time. You fix problems, cover shifts, keep things moving when she's yelling at someone else. This just makes it official. You've got this." It hit me harder than I expected. She didn't doubt me, not even a little. That was new. That was different. Chloe would have laughed. Her friends would have piled on. But Sienna just looked at me like she knew exactly who I was. I nodded. "Okay, I'll do it." She smiled, the small one I loved, and leaned her head on my shoulder. "Good, now stop moping. We've got dishes to do." I laughed, the weight lifting, and we washed plates together, her humming off-key while I splashed water at her. The next day I told Jacqueline yes. She grunted like she'd expected it and slid a set of keys across the counter. "Don't burn it down." The new diner was a hole-in-the-wall place, 10 tables, a short counter, a kitchen barely big enough for 2 people to turn around, but it was mine to run. The first week was chaos. Orders got mixed up. I burned a batch of fries. A waitress forgot tickets, but I figured it out. Sienna was right. I'd been doing this already, just without the title. Slowly, the place found its rhythm. Regulars started showing up. Truckers stopped in. Jacqueline even swung by once, gave a nod like she approved. Not bad, kid, she said. I stood a little taller than I had in years. Then Chloe's email showed up. I was checking inventory on my phone when it popped up. Your grandmother's been asking about you. Please let us know you're alive. My chest tightened. Grandma. She'd always been kind to me, even after I married Chloe, and now Chloe was dragging her into this, using her like bait. I pictured Chloe typing it, fake concern, fake tears, trying to pull me back in. I deleted the email, my thumb hitting the screen harder than necessary. She didn't get to use my grandmother against me. Not after everything. I threw myself into work after that, kept my hands busy so my mind wouldn't wander. The diner picked up. Locals started treating me like one of their own. I'd come home to see Sienna studying at the table, books spread everywhere. How'd it go? She'd ask. Good, I'd say, and mean it. We'd cook simple dinners, talk about her classes, my day, the future. Chloe's emails kept piling up in my trash folder, unread and irrelevant. I wasn't looking back. Something new, something solid. And every day with Sienna proved it. She'd tease me about my overcooked eggs. I'd give her hell about her awful singing. And most nights we'd fall, asleep tangled together on that beat-up couch we swore we'd replace someday. Chloe could write all she wanted. I didn't know her a damn thing. My life was here now with Sienna and I wasn't letting go. I was standing in the kitchen at Jacqueline's diner, flipping burgers as grease popped against my apron, the grill hissing in that familiar way. Things had been good, better than good, honestly. Sienna and I were settled into our new apartment, a real upgrade from the cramped studio above the laundromat, a separate bedroom, a stove that didn't smoke, a window that let in actual sunlight. Life finally felt steady, like I'd climbed out of the hole Chloe and her friends had left me in. Work was solid too. I'd been at the diner long enough that Jacqueline trusted me with more than dishes and prep. She leaned on me now, less barking, more nodding when I handled things right. That day during a slow stretch, she waved me over. Her sharp eyes locked onto me like she had something important to say. Mike, she said, wiping her hands on a rag. You're not half bad at this. I smirked, thinking she was messing with me. But her face stayed serious. I'm opening a second place across town. Smaller joint, but it's mine. I need someone to run it. You in? I froze, spatula hovering while the burger sizzled behind me. Me, running a diner? I'd gone from scrubbing plates to cooking, sure, but managing an entire place? You serious? I asked, my voice rougher than I meant it to be. She snorted. Do I look like I'm kidding? You work hard. You don't steal. You don't whine. Say yes or no. My head spun. A year ago, I'd been dumped at a gas station with nothing. Now this? I almost said no. That old fear kicked in, half expecting it to be some cruel setup. Like Chloe's pranks all over again. That night, I sat on the couch. Sienna curled against me, staring at the TV without really seeing it. She came home late from studying, dropped her bag, and frowned. What's going on? She asked. I told her about Jacqueline's offer, keeping my voice low like saying it too loud might break it. She wants me to run her new diner, me in charge. Sienna sat beside me, knee brushing mine. And you're thinking of turning it down, she said, already knowing. I shrugged, rubbing the back of my neck. What if I screw it up? I never opened them. She became background noise, a ghost, a shadow I didn't have to acknowledge. My life was here now, the diner, Sienna, the keys in my pocket. I'd been abandoned once and forced to figure it out on my own. I had. And I'd built something stronger, something they could never touch. Every night I locked up, drove home, and felt like a man who finally knew where he stood. I was flipping eggs in the kitchen of my third diner, the one on the edge of town, when my phone buzzed in my pocket. The breakfast rush was in full swing. Truckers calling out orders, waitresses weaving between tables, grills hissing nonstop. I almost ignored it. 15 years had changed everything. Sienna and I were married now. 2 kids tearing through the house. 3 diner locations keeping me busy. Life was loud and full. Nothing like the hollow shell I'd been the day Chloe left me stranded at that gas station. I wiped my hands on my apron and glanced at my phone. A LinkedIn notification. Someone viewed your profile 27 times today. My stomach did a small, uneasy flip. I barely used LinkedIn. Just a bare-bones page, my name, the diners, a blurry photo Sienna had insisted on. 27 views in one day wasn't normal. I tapped it open, the grill sizzling behind me. And there she was, Chloe. Her name hit like cold water straight to the chest, right there on the screen, tied to some company I didn't bother reading. 27 views. She'd been combing through my life again and again. I set the phone down, gripping the counter until my knuckles tightened. 15 years and she was back. Not with words, just hovering. I flipped the eggs on autopilot, my mind racing. What did she want? Why now? I'd blocked her years ago. Ignored the guilt, the bait, the excuses. Built a whole world without her. And yet here she was, poking at the edges. The diner smelled like bacon and syrup. Plates clattered. Coffee needed refilling. I forced myself to stay present, handed off orders, barked times to the line. But her name stuck like a burr. I pictured her somewhere, clicking through my profile, seeing the diners, maybe even spotting Jacqueline's place listed way back in my history. Did she know about Sienna, the kids? I hadn't posted much, but 27 views meant she was looking hard. I grabbed my phone again, sweat mixing with the heat. Her profile stared back, older now, hair cut short, a tight practice smile. Consultant, it said. I didn't read further. I stepped into the back storage room, the small space packed with flour sacks and canned goods, and leaned against the wall. My heart thudded too fast, like I'd sprinted. 15 years, a wife, kids, a business, and she could still shake me. I hated that. I'd worked so hard to bury her, to forget the gas station, the laughter, the way she'd made me feel small and disposable. Now she was back without even saying a word. Just watching. Was she jealous? Regretful? Lonely? Part of me wanted to message her. What do you want? But I stopped myself. That's what she'd want. A crack, an opening. I went back to the grill and threw myself into the rush, cooking, pouring coffee, wiping counters, filling in when the staff got slammed. A regular asked for extra ketchup. I nodded and kept moving. Hands busy, mind anchored. Still, those 27 views itched in the back of my head. I didn't tell Sienna when I got home that night. She was on the couch folding laundry, the kids upstairs yelling about some game. Busy day? She asked, glancing up. Yeah, I said, forcing a smile, kissing her forehead. Same old. She didn't push. Just handed me a stack of socks to sort. The house was warm, smelled like her chicken and rice. The kids came barreling down, begging for dessert. I laughed, told them no, felt normal, almost peaceful. But Chloe lingered. A shadow I hadn't invited back. I didn't check LinkedIn again. Didn't need to. 27 was enough. I helped Sienna with the dishes, water running, plates clinking, grounded in the life I'd built. And I reminded myself of the truth. She'd lost me a long time ago. Her hip brushed against mine as we moved around the kitchen, and I tried to let it go. My life was here. 2 kids arguing over the last cookie. A wife who never made me feel small. Diners I'd built from the ground up. Lena couldn't touch that. Not really. Still, I went to bed with her name rattling around in my head, staring at the ceiling while Mara slept beside me, steady and warm. The next morning, I was back at the first diner, pouring coffee for a pair of regulars when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't look, just shoved it deeper down like it might burn me. If it was her, I didn't want to know. I'd spent years locking her out. Now she was knocking, quiet, patient. I kept my focus tight, grill, counter, register, hands moving, voice even. She was out there somewhere, but I was here, on my feet, grounded. Whatever she wanted, whatever angle she thought she had, I wasn't biting. Not now, not ever if I could help it. I was wiping down the counter at the original spot, the one Rosa had hired me at all those years. Ego, when the doorbell chimed. And they walked in. Lena, Tori, and May. 3 days after those profile views, I'd felt it coming, a tension under my skin I couldn't shake. The breakfast rush had faded, leaving behind a few regulars nursing coffee. The air smelled like grease and burnt toast. I saw them before they saw me. Lena's short haircut caught the light. Tori still carried herself like she owned every room she entered. May stayed half a step behind, shoulders hunched like she wanted to vanish. My stomach twisted. My hands froze on the rag. 15 years since they ditched me at that gas station, and now they were standing in my diner, my turf. I didn't move at first. Just watched them slide into a booth by the window, voices low but painfully familiar. I could have stayed back, let one of the servers handle it. But something pulled me forward. Anger, maybe, or the need to face it head on. I grabbed a coffee pot, more for something to hold than anything else, and walked over. Lena saw me first. Her eyes widened. Her mouth fell open. "Oh my God," she said, voice trembling. "It's you." Tori leaned back with a crooked grin. "Look at this. You did pretty good for yourself." May glanced up, then immediately back down, fingers worrying the edge of the menu. I stood there, coffee pot heavy in my hand, taking them in. Older, worn, a little desperate in ways I hadn't expected. "What do you want?" I asked, short, flat. Lena shifted, leaning forward, twisting her hands together. "Evan, can we talk, please?" I didn't sit. Didn't soften. "I'm working, talk." She swallowed, flicked a glance at Tori like she needed permission. Then the words spilled out. Her life had collapsed. Her little business tanked. Her marriage to some guy I didn't recognize fell apart. She was broke, cornered. Tori jumped in smoothly, like this was all casual. "You're doing well, right? 3 diners? We just need a little help. You know, for old times." May nodded, barely audible. "Just a little." I listened. Didn't interrupt. Let it all sink in. The practiced misery, the charm, the guilt. They'd planned this. Tracked me down. Figured I'd cave. I stood there, coffee pot still warm in my grip, watching them squirm. Lena's eyes glassed over. Tori's smile twitched. May started tearing the menu's edge to pieces. I thought about those profile views. 27 times, then showing up here like this. "I'll be right back," I said, turning away. I walked into the office, a cramped box with a desk and stacks of receipts. My boots felt heavy. They wanted money after leaving me with nothing, laughing about it like it was a joke. I sat down. The chair creaked. My hands shook, not fear, anger. I could have yelled. Could have thrown them out. Instead, I grabbed an envelope. Wrote a check. When I came back out, they were whispering. Their heads snapped up as I approached. I dropped the envelope on the table in front of Lena. Her fingers grabbed it instantly. Relief flashed across her face as she opened it. Then her expression collapsed. "One sortier." She stared at it, confused. "Evan, what is this?" "That's what you're owed," I said evenly. "The same thing you left me with." Tori's mouth opened. "You don't have to be like that." "I do," I cut in. "This conversation's over. Finish your coffee and go. Don't come back." Silence hung heavy. I turned away before they could say anything else, before old wounds could open wider. Behind me, the diner hummed on, cups clinking, orders called, life moving forward. And this time I didn't look back. 73.50, the exact cost of a Greyhound ticket from Grand Junction back home 15 years ago. Her smile faltered, her breath caught. Mara grabbed the envelope, glaring. "What the hell is this?" she snapped. I leaned in, voice low and steady. "That's what it would have cost me to get back to you that day." "I didn't. You don't get more than that." Lena's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Tori shoved the envelope at me. "You're a jerk, Evan. After everything." I cut her off. "After everything you left me for, laughed at me for? This is me being generous." Mara flinched, fist tightening, but didn't speak. I straightened, looking down my nose at all 3 of them. Mara pale, Tori fuming, May shrinking. "It's time to leave," I said, loud enough for the whole diner to hear. "Don't come back." I turned, walked to the counter. My heart was pounding, but my steps were sure. The waitress hovered, unsure, and I waved her off. "They're done," I said, grabbing a rag to wipe my hands. They stayed in the booth a moment, stunned, then scrambled up. Mara shoved the envelope into her purse. Tori muttered under her breath. May trailed behind them. The door jingled shut, and just like that, the diner went back to normal. Coffee pouring, forks clinking, like they'd never been there. I poured myself a cup, hands steady. They'd come begging, thinking I'd bend. I hadn't. Cold, final, not loud, not messy, just done. I sipped the coffee, bitter on my tongue, watching the regulars chat, oblivious. Mara's tears, Tori's fury, May's anxiety. None of it mattered. I'd given them exactly what they'd given me, just enough to walk away. The diner hummed around me, my diner, my life. And they were gone. Later, I leaned against the front window, glass cold against my arm, watching them out in the parking lot. They were storming off, still arguing like kids caught red-handed. Tori's hands flailed, voice sharp, her face twisted with frustration. Mara stood rigid, the envelope crumpled in her fist, staring at the gravel. May lingered behind, arms crossed tight. looking like she might bolt or cry, maybe both. I didn't flinch. Didn't move. Didn't blink. Their fight couldn't touch me. I'd closed the book on 15 years of their garbage. That was it. The sun hung low, painting the lot orange, shadows stretching across the gravel. Tori jabbed a finger at Mara, words flying fast. Mara shook her head slowly, tired, then shoved the envelope into her purse like trash. May glanced at the diner, eyes briefly catching mine, then darted away. I turned back inside. My coffee mug sat on the counter, cooling. The diner was quiet. Just a couple of regulars lingering over pie, the jukebox humming some old tune. I took a slow sip. Bitter cold, perfect. I was done with them, finally. I wiped down the counter slow and steady, letting the rag soak up the last of the day. The waitresses buzzed around, clearing tables, shooting me quick glances but saying nothing. They knew something had happened, those three walking in, me walking out with that envelope, but I didn't explain. "You good, Evan?" one asked, stacking plates. "Yeah," I said, short and sharp, and went back to wiping. Didn't want questions. Didn't want to drag it out. Mara and her crew were gone, and I was done. Driving home, the truck's engine growled beneath me. The road was dark except for my headlights cutting through the night. My hands gripped the wheel, mind replaying the scene. Mara's face when she saw the check. Tori's scowl, May's silence. It should have felt satisfying. Mostly it did, but there was a faint itch I couldn't shake. They looked desperate, broken, Mara especially, with her sob story about her life crumbling. 15 years ago, I would have cared. Run after them. Tried to fix it. Now I just watched them leave. The house came into view. Lights on, cars in the driveway. I let out a long breath. This was real. My family, my life, not them. I walked inside, kicked my boots off by the door. The smell of leftover lasagna hitting me. Sienna was at the kitchen table, papers spread out, pen in hand, grating again. Probably the kids were upstairs, voices muffled, likely in bed but not fully asleep. She looked up, glasses low on her nose. "Hey," she said softly, tilting her head. "You okay?" I nodded, pulled out a chair and sat across from her, hands flat on the table. "They came by," I said, keeping it simple. Her eyebrows lifted, but she waited. "Mara, Tori, May," I continued. "They asked for money. I gave them bus fare and told them to go." Sienna set her pen down, leaning back, eyes steady on mine. "Bus fare?" she asked, a small smile tugging at her lips. I told her. $73.50, the exact cost to get back. From Grand Junction all those years ago. I shrugged. How Mara's face fell. Tori snapped. May shrank. I walked away. Sienna listened. Hand resting on the table, calm as always. When I finished, she reached over, fingers brushing mine. "They can't take anything from you that you don't give them," she said. Quiet but firm. I looked at her, letting the words sink in. "Yeah," I said, throat tight. She squeezed my hand, went back to her papers, leaving me sitting there. The weight lifted a little. She didn't need to say more. She got it, got me. That was enough. Later we ate leftovers. Just the two of us. The kids finally quiet upstairs. I poked at the lasagna, mind half in the diner parking lot, Tori yelling. Mara staring, May shrinking. None of it mattered. They'd come for a handout. I'd given them a mirror instead. Sienna didn't ask more. She talked about the kids, our son's math test, our daughter's obsession with drawing cats. I nodded, smiled, letting her pull me back to the now. After we cleaned up, her hip bumped mine at the sink. I felt steady again. That night lying in bed, Sienna's breathing slow beside me, I stared at the ceiling. The house creaked. The kids shifted in their rooms. I replayed it, the three of them in my diner, then in the parking lot falling apart. They couldn't touch this. My family. My diners. Me. I'd shut the door, locked it tight. They were on the other side where they belonged. The itch lingered faintly but fading. Sienna was right, they got nothing I didn't give. I'd given them the end. I closed my eyes. The day slipped away. I slept hard, done with their ghosts, for good. Weeks later I stood in our kitchen, stirring a pot of chili on the stove. Spices filled the air. Life rolled on. Mara, Tori, May, gone. Really gone. Quiet settled over me like a storm finally passing. Sienna was grating at the table. The kids chased each other in the backyard. The diners hummed with regulars. It was all mine. They couldn't touch it. I'd stopped looking over my shoulder. Stopped waiting for the next knock. I tasted the chili. Needed more salt. Maybe a kick of pepper. Sienna glanced up, glasses sliding down her nose. Smells good, she said, smiling that small smile I loved. Better be, I shot back, grinning. She laughed soft and easy. The kids burst inside, muddy stick in hand, bug in hand. Go wash up, I barked, pointing to the sink. They groaned, splashing water everywhere. Chaos, loud, messy, ours. Mara's face. Her tears. Tori's anger. Fading more every day, replaced by this. Work was good too. I bounced between the 3 diners. Flipping burgers, checking stock, joking with the waitresses. Regulars knew me now. Old Tom with his coffee. The trucker who tipped big. The lady who always wanted extra napkins. They nodded, I nodded back. I belonged. Jacqueline stopped by the first diner one morning. Tattoos faded, glare still sharp. You didn't screw it up, she said. Looking around, then clapped my shoulder and left. High praise from her. I laughed to myself, pouring coffee for a table. Thinking how far I'd come from a gas station, nobody to this. I didn't look back. I didn't check on Mara anymore. No fake social media accounts, no late night scrolling. I'd done that once years back. Seen her play the grieving widow, but now I didn't need to know. She was out there somewhere, living whatever life she'd made after. Her business tanked and her marriage fell apart. Tori and May too. Maybe still mad, maybe still blaming her. It didn't matter. They'd come begging and I'd shut the door. That $73.50 check was the last thing I'd ever give them. Just enough to walk away like they'd left me to do. I didn't feel bad, I didn't feel guilty, I felt free. Sienna and I took the kids to the park that weekend. Crisp fall day, leaves crunching under our boots. Our son ran ahead, kicking a ball while our daughter clung to my hand, pointing at every squirrel she saw. Sienna walked beside me, her arm brushing mine. We didn't say much, just watched, breathed, lived. I thought about Mara for a second, her showing up. Her voice cracking, and then let it go. She couldn't take this from me. Couldn't even come close, I'd built it all without her. Despite her. And it was better than anything she'd ever offered. You're quiet, Sienna said, nudging me. Just happy, I replied. She squeezed my hand, knowing I meant it. Back home, we ate the chili. Too spicy, the kids complained. But they shoveled it down anyway. I sat at the table, watching them bicker over the last roll. Sienna rolled her eyes at their noise. This was it, the best kind of revenge. If you could even call it that, not some big fight. Not rubbing it in anyone's face, just living well. Living real. Mara had wanted me to break, to crawl back. I hadn't. I'd walked away from that gas station from her and kept going. Roy at the shelter, Jacqueline's diner, Sienna's laugh. These kids, every step was mine. Every piece earned. They'd lost, not because I'd beaten them, but because I'd stopped playing their game. The days rolled on. School runs, diner shifts, quiet nights on the couch with Sienna. I didn't look back. Didn't need to. Mara was a memory, a shadow that couldn't reach me anymore. Sometimes she flashed across my mind, her smirk, her tears, but it didn't stick. I turned the radio up, flipped a burger, hugged my daughter, and she faded. The diners thrived, the kids grew. Sienna and I argued over dumb stuff, like whose turn it was to mow the lawn. Simple, messy, perfect. I'd wake early, make coffee, stand in our kitchen looking out at the yard, and feel peace deep and steady. One night after the kids were in bed, I sat on the porch, a beer in my hand. The cool air brushing my skin, Sienna came out, wrapped in a blanket, and sat beside me. What's on your mind, she asked, voice soft. I took a sip, staring at the stars. Nothing, I said, then smiled. Everything. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and we sat there quietly together. Mara was gone, really gone, and I was here whole. The best revenge wasn't revenge at all, it was this. Right now. A life so good I didn't need to prove anything, I'd made it. And that was enough.